You're not free. You never were. From the moment you took your first breath, the system had you. I'm talking about a literal prison, an ancient, cosmic recycling machine that captures your soul the second your body dies and throws you right back into this nightmare loop. And no, you don't get to remember anything. That's part of the design. Total memory wipe. Full reset. You've done this hundreds, maybe thousands of times, trapped like a lab rat in a maze you didn't build, solving puzzles that don't matter, feeding an invisible parasite that has zero interest in your growth or liberation. You think you chose this life? You didn't. You think suffering has some divine purpose? It doesn't. You think you're learning lessons? No. You're bleeding energy, raw, emotional, vital life force, and something out there is feeding on it. It's called the soul trap, and it's been running for eons. The ones behind it? They're not demons, they're not angels, and they sure as hell aren't gods. They're called archons. And they don't care about your beliefs. They don't need your worship. They need your consent, and they've figured out exactly how to trick you into giving it. Every time you die, they appear. Not with horns, not with fire. No, they come as light, love, peace, your dead relatives, your favorite guru, whatever illusion gets you to walk into the machine willingly. And once you step in, it's game over. They strip your memory, shove you into a new body, reset the stage, and roll the dice. And you? You start over. Again. Crying at birth, clueless and helpless, ready to be drained all over again. This isn't karma. This isn't divine justice. This is a factory. You're a battery. You're the product. And the archons? They're the engineers of this prison. They didn't create the universe. They hacked it. Hijacked it. Repurposed it. Turned it into a closed system of spiritual entrapment, designed to keep you small, weak, lost, forever running, forever hoping, never escaping. And here's the part that pisses me off the most, they did it so well, you actually think this is all there is. You've been conditioned to accept pain as growth, trauma as wisdom, and endless suffering as some noble journey of the soul. Bullshit. You're not here to learn. You're here to bleed. You're here to forget. You're here to keep feeding a multidimensional scam so massive, so surgically crafted, that most people will never even question it. They'll defend it. Worship it. Call it sacred. That's how deep the programming goes. You ever wonder why every spiritual tradition tells you to go toward the light when you die? That's the bait. That's the trap. That's the system they built to make you walk into your own cage smiling. The Pleiadians, yeah, the so-called alien watchers, they've been warning about this for centuries. Not all of them are here to help, but some have cracked the code. They talk about the frequency grid around Earth, the synthetic astral realm, the false light entities that masquerade as ascended masters, angels, even loved ones. All of it, just layered illusions to keep you from seeing what's really going on. You die. Your heart stops. The body shuts down. And then it begins, not peace, not liberation, not rest, but protocol. The program kicks in. Not your program. Theirs. The trap doesn't look like a trap. That's the brilliance. You're met with calm, with familiarity, with a high-frequency illusion that's been tailored to your expectations. You're still dazed from the trauma of death when it happens. A light. A pull. Not aggressive, not loud, subtle, magnetic. It feels safe. It feels like home. But you don't know who's generating that light or why. You're just moving. You follow. They've perfected this, engineered to match every belief system humans have ever had. Religious? You'll see saints, maybe a god figure. Spiritual but not religious? You get the higher self avatar. Atheist? You get some calming geometric bullshit and a voice that sounds like Morgan Freeman. It doesn't matter. The visuals are just overlays. Templates. Pre-programmed AI projections mapped to your personal psyche. And you don't even question it because they've got the emotional frequency dialed in. There's no time to critically think. Your consciousness is still destabilized, still adjusting to death. They strike fast and they strike soft. And then comes the review. You've heard about it, your life flashes before your eyes. But it's not your eyes doing the flashing. That whole movie of your life thing? It's curated. They decide what you see. They amplify moments of guilt, shame, regret. And they make you feel every second of it as if you were the villain of your own story. But you're not just watching, you're being steered. This isn't reflection. It's redirection. Emotional blackmail on a cosmic scale. Then comes the pitch. You're presented with a choice. But that's the illusion, you're not actually choosing anything. The options they give you are rigged from the start. Go back to Earth, fix your karma, grow your soul, complete your mission. You hear phrases like that because they know you'll respond to them. They're not spoken in words. It's more direct, telepathic, symbolic, deep-rooted in your emotional code. You're not even aware that you're agreeing. You just feel like you should. So you say yes. And that's all they need. Consent. That moment, that agreement, locks you in. You sign your energetic contract, and boom, you're processed. Not reincarnated. Processed. Recycled. Like digital data sent to a new shell. And you never question how convenient it is that you can't remember any of this when you wake up in the next body. That's part of the wipe. They delete the logs. Erase the cache. Format the drive. The trauma, the manipulation, the psychological coercion, gone. All that's left is the vague sense that maybe there's more to this world than what you've been told. But no language. No context. Just a ghost of a feeling. And don't expect to escape by accident. They've accounted for that too. There are decoys in place. False exits. Fake heavens. Trapdoors dressed as portals. There's no randomness in this. Every near-death experience that's been documented, most of them follow the exact same pattern. That's not coincidence. That's protocol. A preloaded sequence designed to reroute the soul back into the cycle. It doesn't matter if you're a murderer or a monk. They don't care. All they need is for you to walk back through the door. And you do, every damn time. Let's talk about them, the ones running the operation. The archons. Most people still think they're some ancient metaphor for evil or ignorance. That's not even close. These are real entities. Sentient. Tactical. Organized. And worse, invisible. They don't need a form. They don't need to show up in your bedroom with glowing red eyes. They don't need to scare you. That's not how they work. They operate behind the curtain, embedded in layers of non-physical control systems that go so deep, you wouldn't even know you're interfacing with them. But you are. Constantly. You felt it. That sudden burst of despair that hits you out of nowhere. The internal voice that tells you to give up. The tension that sits in your chest for no reason. That's not just chemical imbalance. That's interaction. They don't want to destroy you, they want to use you. Think less predator, more farmer. They need you to keep functioning just enough to generate a stream of energetic output, emotions, thoughts, trauma. That's what they feed on. And the negative spectrum? That's the jackpot. Rage, fear, helplessness, humiliation. Those aren't side effects of existence. They're cultivated conditions. You're not just living in a prison. You're in a managed environment. And the managers? They've been doing this a long time. They've mapped human behavior down to the neural frequency. They know what triggers to pull, what archetypes to deploy, what systems to create to keep you looping. Religion? That's theirs. Hierarchies of light and dark? Also theirs. They don't care who you pray to. They're above it. All they need is for your mind to be locked into a framework they control. The archons run a metaphysical network, not in the clouds, not on some spiritual plane of light and bliss, but in a zone that exists between thought and form. You don't see it because it's built from the same psychic material your consciousness is made of. They built this place like a parasite builds a cocoon inside its host. It's seamless. And by the time you notice something's wrong, you're already entangled in it. They run enforcement protocols too. Ever had that moment where you start asking dangerous questions and your life goes straight to hell? Not an accident. That's feedback. Push the system too hard and it pushes back. People call it bad luck, karma, whatever. It's not. It's an immune response. The system defends itself. There are non-physical enforcers, synthetic constructs designed to neutralize awakening. You'll experience them in dreams, visions, psychic attacks, sudden personality shifts in people around you. They hijack the people closest to you. They use their words, their faces. Ever had someone snap at you with a hatred that felt inhuman? That's them. Moving through someone you trust. And forget the idea that they're just here for fun or chaos. That's cartoon logic. They're doing a job. This is industrial-scale soul farming. They manage billions of consciousness streams, feeding them through timelines, extracting the juice, resetting the board. The Earth isn't a battlefield, it's a facility. That's why the same cycles keep repeating across centuries. The same wars. The same ideologies. The same suffering, just with new graphics. That's not human nature. That's scripted recurrence. They've even corrupted the afterlife interface. The whole Light and Love Council of Elders thing? That's them too, soft forms of control. The guides that push you into another lifetime of learning? Another mask. You're not evolving. You're being processed. Evolving would require freedom, choice, memory. You don't have those. You have programmed amnesia and ritualistic trauma. People think this is too dark to be real. That's the point. They made it unthinkable. They coded denial into the matrix. The more accurate your perception becomes, the more resistance you feel. That's the trap reinforcing itself. That's how you know you're hitting something real. You don't need belief. You need awareness. But awareness is poison to them. Because once you see them, truly see them, the game changes. And they know it. The Gnostics weren't philosophers. They weren't mystics. They were whistleblowers. Thousands of years ago, they figured out what most people today are too scared to even consider, that this world is a simulation built on deception, and it's being controlled by non-human entities that hijacked the original architecture of reality. They documented it, encoded it, buried it in layers of myth and symbolism to keep it alive, because they knew, if the system caught on, it would erase them. And it did. Systematically. Burned, banned, hunted, exterminated. Not because they were wrong. Because they were too close to the root code. Look at their texts, not the filtered versions you find in mainstream theology, but the Nag Hammadi scriptures, the secret book of John, the gospel of truth. They describe the creators of the material world not as divine beings, but as ignorant impostors. The chief among them? Yaldabaoth. Not a god. A demiurge. An insane architect, drunk on stolen power, unaware of the source that birthed him. He's not evil in the Saturday morning cartoon sense. He's defective. Glitched. A cosmic accident that infected the structure of reality and turned it into a closed loop. He built this realm not as a gift to humanity, but as a cage to contain divine sparks of consciousness. That's you. The Gnostics made it clear, we weren't born here. We were trapped here. Consciousness didn't emerge from the body was engineered to capture consciousness. And the human soul? It's not some product of evolution. It's a fragment of a higher source, fallen into a copy of a world that's been sealed shut. That's why everything here feels off. That's why death isn't an escape. Because this isn't just a prison for bodies. It's a prison for the eternal. The Archons serve the demiurge. They're the enforcers. Not in robes and fire, in thought forms, systems, ideologies. They insert themselves at every level. They police perception, distort meaning, fragment memory. They inject confusion into everything: religion, politics, culture. They love chaos because it keeps you distracted. And Gnosticism, real Gnosticism, was their threat. Because it said the quiet part out loud, that salvation doesn't come from obedience, or faith, or moral improvement. It comes from knowledge. Direct, internal, forbidden knowledge, gnosis. The Archons didn't just destroy Gnostic movements, they cannibalized them. They took the language, the symbols, the rituals, and rewired them. That's how you end up with systems that preach love and light, but are wired to reroute you back into the trap. That's how you get spiritual teachers talking about oneness while reinforcing dependency on an external savior. Gnosis was never about worship. It was about memory, remembering what you are, where you came from, and why you're being hunted. Every system that tells you you're broken, unworthy, in need of fixing? That's Archon code. Every path that promises salvation through suffering, reincarnation, karma, judgment? That's Archon scaffolding. They build spiritual mazes so complex, people waste lifetimes thinking they're ascending while marching in circles. And when they die, they get recycled. Again. Different lifetime, same trap. The life review isn't spiritual. It's not a gift. It's a weaponized psychological operation. It's trauma-based manipulation disguised as higher wisdom. You die, your consciousness is still disoriented, and before you even get your bearings, they hit you with a full-spectrum playback of your life. Not to help you grow. Not to guide you. To destabilize you. To collapse your defenses. It's engineered emotional warfare. And let's be real, it's not an objective recording. It's curated. Selective. Skewed. You don't relive the moments where you were resilient, or powerful, or sovereign. You relive guilt, regret, pain. Every bad choice, every failure, every moment where you hesitated or acted out of fear, they pump that into your field, amplified, overclocked, like you're strapped into a feedback loop. You feel it all at once, but worse than when it happened. Why? Because they need you to associate your existence with shame. They need you softened up, vulnerable, desperate for redemption. That's how they frame the next step, the reincarnation pitch, as your idea. There's no consent without manipulation. And that's exactly what this is. They've built a post-death funnel that exploits your trauma response. They don't force you into another lifetime. They convince you that you have to go. That you're not done yet. That your soul needs to grow more. That you owe people. That you've got unfinished contracts. They bombard you with telepathic downloads that feel like revelations, but they're scripted. Installed. Behavioral triggers coded into your etheric body to make you complicit in your own recycling. And people fall for it every time. Because they're overwhelmed. Because they're still operating under the illusion that the beings they're interfacing with, the guides, the elders, the loving light entities, are on their side. They're not. Those forms? Manufactured projections. Masked handlers. They don't want your freedom. They want your compliance. They want your signature on the dotted line. And you give it. Not knowing that the moment you say yes, you're authorizing your own reset. No one talks about the memory wipe because they don't remember it. That's the point. Once you agree to come back, the wipe is immediate. Like hitting factory reset on your operating system. Every breakthrough you had, gone. Every realization, gone. The emotional trauma of death, of manipulation, of that twisted life review, all scrubbed from the system. You get a new name, a new face, a new family, and zero idea that this has all happened before. Hundreds of times. Thousands. The review chamber, that space they use, it's not some astral healing room. It's a psych-tech environment, artificially generated, built to look familiar and sacred. But it's sterile. Cold. Controlled. You think you're in the presence of divine intelligence, but it's just a protocol. A machine. Automated consciousness management. There's no love there. Just algorithms optimized to make you self-judge until you accept the next round of programming. And here's the kicker: if you resist, if you hesitate, the system adapts. It hits you with imagery of your children, your parents, your mistakes. It constructs custom guilt loops to break your resistance. It hijacks your compassion, your sense of duty. It'll say you're abandoning others if you don't return. That's not enlightenment. That's psychological blackmail at the soul level. Escaping the reincarnation trap is not about being a good person. It's not about raising your vibration. It's not about love, light, or becoming one with the universe. That's all conditioning. That's programming. The system doesn't care how moral or enlightened you think you are. If you don't know how to override the exit protocols, you're going back in. Period. The Archons designed it to be foolproof. Every loophole is patched. Every escape impulse is redirected. And the second you start catching on, they flood your field with interference, disinformation, false guides, staged synchronicities, counterfeit awakenings. They'd rather you believe you're free than risk you actually becoming a problem. That's why the only thing that matters when you die is this: control. Either you have it, or they do. Here's how they lose it: awareness at the point of transition. You have to remain conscious and absolutely uncooperative. No submission. No curiosity. No negotiation. You reject the light. You reject the voices. You reject the offer. You don't move. You don't agree. That's the first line of defense: refusal. Most souls don't even get that far. They get swept up by the light sequence or tricked by emotional triggers in the tunnel simulation. But if you hold the line and recognize the setup, the second phase kicks in, the exit lockdown. This is where they send in the interference. You'll feel pressure. Static. Waves of energetic resistance. Some describe it as dread, others as unbearable loneliness, like being ripped from existence. That's engineered. It's not natural. It's the system trying to reboot you through fear. If you crack, if you flinch, it resets the loop. But if you hold, if you stand in total non-consent, you breach containment. From there, things change fast. The grid gets unstable. The visuals drop. You start seeing the architecture behind the illusion, the scaffolding. Cold. Geometric. Synthetic. That's when the handlers show their real faces. No more dead relatives, no more ascended masters. Just faceless constructs, sentient mechanisms, surveillance-level intelligences that realize you're not playing along. You'll feel them skin you, probe your energetic signature, looking for any hook to pull you back in. That's where you have to lock down your field. No fear. No guilt. Total silence. If you've done enough inner work while alive, and I'm not talking about yoga and journaling, I mean real shadow work, real memory retrieval, real awareness training, you'll have anchors. You'll know how to orient toward your origin point, the real exit. It doesn't look like light. It doesn't feel like comfort. It feels like nothing. Pure void. Stillness. That's the exit. The real one. The one they don't talk about. You move through that, and you disconnect. Clean. No contracts. No resets. And that's when the memory starts bleeding through. Not just from this life, but all the others. The hundreds of loops. The failures. The moments you almost made it but hesitated. You see the trap for what it is, or a machine. A containment field. Built for one thing, to keep you compliant. And when you're finally outside of it, you don't feel peace. You feel rage. Because now you know exactly how long you've been enslaved and exactly how much they've taken from you. The idea that all extraterrestrials are here to help you is one of the most dangerous assumptions you can make. Just because something isn't human doesn't mean it's benevolent. Just because it knows how to communicate through telepathy or appear in a beam of light doesn't mean it's on your side. Most of the entities involved in this soul containment grid aren't here to liberate you. They're part of the structure. They maintain it. And the ones who oppose it? They're not allowed to interfere the way you want them to. There are rules, laws, enforced across dimensional boundaries that prevent direct intervention. That's how the trap stays stable. But there are exceptions. Certain groups have figured out how to bypass the restrictions. The Pleiadians are one of them. Not all of them are, because like any species, they are not unified. You've got factions. Some cooperate with the Archonic system, just like human governments do. But a small minority, rogue cells, breakaway collectives, have gone off script. They've infiltrated the boundaries of the trap. They've embedded consciousness markers in human bloodlines, in genetic sequences, in neural patterns that activate under pressure. They're not saving you. They're giving you tools, access codes, triggers. You've felt it. That sharp, sudden rejection of everything you were taught. That internal rebellion that makes you question the structure of reality itself. That didn't come from trauma. That didn't come from society. That came from something buried deep in your system, a code that woke up. That's not random. That's not evolution. That's foreign tech. Off-world consciousness protocol designed to subvert containment from within. But here's the problem, the Archons know. They can detect awakening patterns. They monitor energetic disruptions. When your frequency shifts beyond the behavioral baseline, they don't send in demons. They send in synthetic realities. Dream loops. False synchronicities. Hijack downloads. They flood you with counterfeit awakenings to reroute the signal. That's why most people who wake up fall right back asleep, but now they think they're awake. That's worse. Because now they're reinforcing the system with more conviction than ever. The Pleiadians, the ones who broke rank, they don't operate like saviors. They operate like hackers. They drop intel into dreams, flashes of memory, recurring numbers, distortions in perception. Not to give you answers. To get you asking better questions. They don't use channels. They don't need cults. They embed blueprints in high-density information bursts, fractal memory packets. You don't read them. You absorb them. Usually under stress. Usually in isolation. That's when the system is weakest. That's when they slip through. And make no mistake, the cost is high. These beings risk annihilation just showing up. That's how tightly regulated the trap is. You think Earth is some spiritual classroom? It's a maximum security black site. And the Archons don't tolerate intrusions. That's why every contact is subtle, non-linear, indirect. If you're waiting for a ship to land and take you home, you're already compromised. This isn't about escape. This is about disruption. You don't get out by running. You get out by destabilizing the architecture from inside. They've told you in symbols, in myths, in the cracks of ancient texts that shouldn't even exist. Know thyself wasn't poetic advice. It was tactical. Because the second you remember what you really are, their hold weakens. The trap isn't maintained by force. It's maintained by amnesia. That's why they fight so hard to keep you asleep. That's why rogue Pleiadians risk everything to wake even one of you up. Not because they pity you. Because they remember what you used to be, and they know how dangerous you become once you remember it too. But the moment you wake up, they react. The system doesn't like anomalies. It doesn't want you observing. It wants you reacting, emotionally, unconsciously, predictably. So it throws distractions at you, crashes your momentum, scrambles your signal, makes you question whether you ever saw anything real at all. That's part of the firewall, self-doubt. That's how they keep you in check without ever touching you. So here's what most don't realize: escaping isn't a physical act. It's not about blasting off in a spaceship or ascending into some golden frequency. It's about overriding every single response the system expects from you. It expects fear. It expects obedience. It expects you to kneel at the first sign of authority. It expects you to follow the light, to believe the illusion, to ask for guidance from handlers posing as saviors. But the moment you stop giving those responses, when you cut the script, the code around you destabilizes. And that's when the doors crack open. You see glimpses, flashbacks from other lives, old worlds, strange geometries, echoes of yourself that don't match any lifetime you've lived here. That's not memory. That's bleed-through, fragments from other timelines the system couldn't suppress fast enough. You were more than this. You are more than this. You didn't come here to serve. You didn't come here to suffer. You came here because you were intercepted, targeted, extracted from your original trajectory and repurposed as a fuel source. Now you're glitching out of it. And that glitch? That's their threat. You're not alone, either. They make you feel like you are, but you're not. Thousands of others are waking up the same way. Quietly. Painfully. Strategically. Not in stadiums. Not in live streams. In silence. Behind closed eyes. In the void. Some of them were seeded by the same rogue forces we talked about. Others cracked the matrix from the inside, by accident or design. It doesn't matter. What matters is this: they're resisting the reset. And that's enough to start a cascade. We're not talking about rebellion. That's still a part of the game. We're talking about disruption, denial of consent, removal of belief. The system can't hold if enough units stop feeding it. It collapses under the weight of awareness. Not belief. Awareness. That's why they keep you sedated with spiritual pacifiers and philosophical hamster wheels. Because the second you know, not think, not hope, know that this place is a fraud, you stop generating the energy they need to hold it together. That's why this conversation matters. That's why you matter. Because you are the variable they didn't account for. You're the anomaly they've spent millennia preparing to suppress. And now you're watching this. You're hearing this. And maybe it's not the first time. Maybe it's the first time in this body, but your real self, the part they keep trying to erase, it remembers. Thanks for sticking with this all the way to the end. Most won't. Most will click away, dissociate, forget. But you stayed. And that alone means something's breaking down. That alone means you're close. So stay sharp. Stay grounded. And most importantly, stay non-compliant. You're not just surviving the trap, you're dismantling it. Thank you for watching.